All right, it's close enough to 6:30 here, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I know a few other people might be joining us as we get into this evening. First of all, thank you all for being here this evening. Really excited to be able to have these conversations. I just want to thank my fellow board members for being here this evening, as well as many staff members here from the district and from our district office that are here to support the conversations this evening. So we can jump right into this. I just wanted to give a couple of ground rules, and I'll be moderating the meeting tonight. This is different than a normal board meeting. This is a time to dialogue and engage with the board and also the administration around the budget. I would just ask this evening, as much as we are able to, is focus the questions around the budget, as that's why many individuals are here this evening, to ask questions specifically around our budget. Board members, you are welcome to come off of mute and answer any question, and same thing with administration or those from the district office. What I would just ask is, I know many of us might have a lot of comments that we would like to share, but just for the sake of everyone on the call this evening, if we can really try to just target specific questions so that we have time to be able to dialogue and engage with individuals. And there's a couple of ways to do this. Number one, if you want to raise your hand, and the way that you're able to do that is right at the bottom of the screen, two buttons over from the hang up button. So don't click that one. Two buttons over, if you click the little hand, that'll raise your hand. That'll identify to us that you have a question. And then you can go ahead and ask your question once we add you in. If you would rather not come off of mute and ask a question in that way, you can also use the chat. So feel free to drop questions in the chat. As we're going through this evening, I will bounce back and forth between just the order of line of who has raised their hand and also the chat so that we can get to as many questions as possible. If we are not able to get to all the questions this evening, especially the ones that are in chat, what I will do is I will take a copy of all those. We will get them back to administration, and then we'll start to work through those. Hope to introduce some of those into next Tuesday night, and also bring them back into our future engagements over the next following Thursdays. With that, I want to be able to jump right into this. So again, if you have questions this evening, please go ahead and raise your hand, and then Sarah or maybe Brian will move the individuals over into the main room. And also feel free to drop any questions in the chat as well. And happy to take any questions out there. Again, thank you all for joining us tonight and engaging with us. There you go. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Hey, good evening, everybody. First off, I want to just say thanks, of course, to all the hard work that everyone's putting in on this project. It's a big ask to be cutting so much out of the budget there. And so I really applaud that commitment to making things easier for the greater community. My question is kind of just more for administration, but just clarifying on a comment that Beth had made towards the end of the meeting on Tuesday. As the budget kind of currently has been proposed as a house of cards. So that comment kind of stuck with me a little bit. Wasn't sure if it was just kind of an aside or if we're really looking at a budget that is highly defined, dependent on every one of those components. Just as a bit of that clarification, a lot of folks have expressed a desire to save the music programs. Are we looking at the combination of consolidation and staff reductions, meaning that in order for that to occur, nothing else in the budget can change? How locked in are things now, and how much community feedback is going to be actually able to be acted upon before the board has the will to put it forward?
Sure, I can attempt to start to answer that question. So what I meant by the house of cards is there are so many strategies that are connected in many different ways. So if we talk about transportation, or we talk about pre-K, we have to talk about transportation. There's just a bunch that goes into each of the strategies. So it might not just be one strategy that somebody's wants to maybe change or have a better idea for, but it would be that strategy, we just need to remember, is connected maybe to another strategy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I just, I think it's just important that myself and folks in the community know that their feedback in these engagement sessions are
Yes.
going to be, it's going to possibly be a catalyst for some changes in the proposal.
Yes, absolutely. And I do feel there's some things that we could do. We just have to, anything that we put back in from this proposed budget, if somebody wants to do something different, we have to find that money because it is level funded. So we're not adding to it. We would have to take away from something else.
Understandable. Thank you very much.
Not seeing any questions in the chat yet. Again, if you just joined us, feel free to either raise your hand using the raise your hand feature or adding any questions to the chat as well. But it looks like Kristen, you're up next. Or, I'm sorry, Kirsten.
Kirsten, yep, there you go.
Yep. Okay. I figured it out. Hi, I'm Kirsten Tyler. I am a mom at Westford School. I have two kids, one in 6th grade and one in 8th grade. And so my question really revolves around my fear of moving the middle schoolers and pre-K out of Westford as being the first step to closing the school altogether. I heard a board member at the last meeting ask what the cost would be to run the systems in the different buildings. And I think that that's a really good question to ask, because I fear that a half empty school would really not make much sense. It would be too expensive to keep open with only half the population. And in the next budget talks, it would make the most sense to close the school or transform it into something totally different. I understand that you would probably have to provide transportation for the middle schoolers in Westford to go to Essex. So in my mind, that's an additional cost. And so I guess I don't see the financial benefits, and I would really like more transparency on the justification for moving the kids out of Westford to Essex and what those financial benefits would actually be. Yeah, I'd really like to see breakdowns so that we can understand like why that's being proposed.
Beth, I can start with one thing and then I'll turn it over to you. I know one thing that has been heard, is the idea of that it would save $6 million for the district to close Westford. Number one, I can tell you that is not correct. It would be roughly $4 million. However, completely cutting Westford would in essence mean reducing all staff to 0 and selling the building, going through all of that. That is not anything that the board has given direction to do. The consolidation and moving of students around, that aspect of it would also free up space at Westford to potentially have other programs, which I know Beth is going to talk about a little bit here on some of those things. And I know this is going to be coming out in a future presentation. So it's really, that's one aspect of it. And the other piece too, I know we as board members back in the fall heard a lot of feedback about especially the 6th, 7th, 8th grade having the same opportunities and same options for sports, activities, extracurriculars, and so forth as those students in 6 through 8 in both Essex Junction and Essex Town. So in that, it's kind of listening to that feedback as well. But I hear where you're coming from, and I want to let you know, and especially those from Westford on the call, that the board has heard loud and clear that there is this absolute fear that this is just step one to then just completely close Westford. And that is not a plan that the board has, nor has drawn up. And in fact, we've been looking just across, like, how do we get our systems consolidated and in such a way that there's alignment throughout both Essex Town, Essex Junction, and Westford. And this is one of the steps to get there, but not a step for closure. Beth, I'm going to let you add to that as well, and other board members feel free to come off. But I wanted to clarify that one fact that is, well, the one piece of misinformation that is out there, and just clarify that as well.
Sure. Yes, we consider Westford a huge asset to the district, the land, the building itself. We don't want to lose that community feel for that building at all, and understand what it's like. I understand what it's like to live in a small town, and your school is the community, the center of the community. We would like to figure out a better way to use that even, right? Like, so if we do, if the middle schoolers end up going to Essex Middle School, as is in the proposed budget, we can spend next year thinking about So what could Westford be like? It can still have K-5. It could have an outdoor education kind of feel to it, draw some students from Essex to Westford. So there's lots of opportunities, and we agree Westford is a great place to be for sure. One of my favorites to go and visit. And the land and all we can do with that. There's a lot of potential and opportunities there that we're looking at to collaborate with the town and figure out what is best for, what does Westford need?
Hey, Beth, tack onto that point there, just want to let Westford parents and community members know that myself, Anne Marie Sharp, and Andre Roy will be out at the Westford School next Sunday at 3:30. We're going to have a community gathering so that parents can come talk to us, community members can talk to us. Again, that sense of collaboration. We want to hear your thoughts, hear your concerns, and be able to encapsulate that and give you the latest information, because we'll obviously have another budget meeting on Tuesday, so we'll have more information to share. So again, we'll have to go back and forth, so just put that out there since there's folks on the call here, and you can also share with folks that maybe not be able to be on this call, you can let them know so they can come to Westford Elementary School and meet up with us, and we'll be happy to talk with them. I think it's scheduled for an hour, but we'll be happy to stay as long as people have questions.
Then it looks like next we have Gretchen. Hey, Gretchen, you might just have to unmute.
There we go. Sorry.
No worries. Thanks.
Yeah, so I wanted to echo what the first questioner said. Thank you to everyone for all of the hard work on this really difficult task. I really appreciate all that everyone is doing to work on this. I have two sort of not really related questions. Should I ask them both now, or should I jump back in the queue?
Yeah. Go ahead and just toss them right back out now. That'll
Okay.
work.
So first is just like I'm trying to wrap my head around the two different things that are going on, right? There's the state level education changes that are coming from the Scott administration, and then the budget process going on here at Essex Westford. So one general question is just, how are you going about creating a budget when you have no idea what the state funding will be for next year? I'm just curious about that. I know it doesn't really help us get to an answer, but it helps me understand what's going on. So that was question number one. And the second is, I'm curious about Essex High School. My student came home yesterday saying that they're registering for classes. She's a rising senior, and they're being encouraged to only register for 6 credits next year. And that really blew my mind, to be honest. That seemed crazy. So I'm curious why, what the rationale is for encouraging juniors and seniors at Essex High School to register for fewer classes than they can take. Thank you.
So Gretchen, I can take the first one. I know as of right now, it does, and we've, as board members, have also been talking to our reps and senators around the proposal that the governor has put forth. It looks like it's kind of a flag in the ground, and it's almost like negotiations of, hey, I'm going to take it to the extreme. We weren't anticipating it at that level. I know last year and including this year, we wanted to really start creating a budget that would project out 3 to 5 years. Again, we're looking at what that funding formula might look like, which forces us into the pattern of planning year over year. So what we are trying to do this year is really aim at that level budget to mitigate as much of the tax impact as we are able to. And I know the governor put out yesterday in his budget address that there might be $77 million that could be applied to the ed fund to reduce the yield. Again, that's not any money that we can count on. And also that might then just drive up spending across the state anyways, because if other districts know that that exists, they'll inflate their budgets, which ultimately mitigates that. So I know some people were frustrated that that was even brought out at this point in time. But Brian or Beth, is there anything else you wanted to add to just the budgeting process with respect to the state?
I do think we have to continue to move forward and can't wait for them to decide what's going to happen. And I feel like nothing will happen really significantly until the following year. And I truly believe the steps that we've made in this proposed budget is getting us to a better place when we do have some things that will come down from the governor for us to do. So we're getting, it's like
But
a giant step on the way.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, like, can we count on the income that you're projecting for next year from the state? That's really what my question is. Like, are you creating 5 different versions of the budget? Like, if the student weight is this, here's what we can do. If the, like that, it's
Next.
insane.
Sure. That's a great question. Go ahead, Brian.
I mean, for FY 26, we have as many knowns as we have had in the past. There's a number of things. We've got long-term weighted pupils already that has been cast. We have a number of other things that have been done and submitted and so forth. I mean, the level of volatility from the federal side and the state side is enormous. But as Beth said, we've got to move on. And we do have a number of big holes that are plugged, and we understand like a fact or information or a process for next year. The year after that is, FY 27, as Beth said, is really when even the governor is indicating that we might move to a formula to fund schools. We might be electing board members for new district. It's so wide open there, but I would say we've got some good information to build a budget with validity for FY 26. And now we're just sort of watching as the pieces move for FY 27 and beyond.
Okay.
And Gretchen, I would just reiterate that the proposal as it currently stands that has been released by the administration would not go into effect until fiscal year 27, and we're budgeting for 26. So none of the proposal is currently intended to go into effect in FY 26.
Okay.
And Beth, did you want to take the second question there?
Sure, I can, about the high school. So in the fall, students are able to add and drop classes.
Right.
What they've found is some classes, 20% of the students may drop. And so that we don't have real numbers when we're registering. So they limited it to 6, although if a student wants more, they just talk to their guidance counsel. This is like the first round, right? To try to get real numbers and then to see where we go from there. If somebody has to open more slots, that certainly can happen. And they're very willing to work with students if they want to take more. But we were really caught in this cycle where we were planning for more to be in a class, and a month in, there's a lot fewer students in the class. So then we have, 13 instead of 20 or something. So it's a flip, but the students, we don't want to deny a student from taking a class for sure. So that is just working with their counselor.
Okay. So any student who wants to take 7 or, up to their 8 credits will be able to do that.
And they were,
So
they were encouraged to, I'm sorry, Deb, they were encouraged to do that before, like to fill up everything. And it's the way that they thought that should be happening, right? And we've been looking at the historical numbers over the past 3 years. And that's when this decision, let's go about it a different way. So the faculty know as well that kids are going to sign up for 6. And if they need more, they can work with a counselor. Deb, sorry.
So I think it's actually a graduated approach. So I think the 9th and 10th graders can sign up for 8, the 11th, 7, and the 12th, 6. And that's just based on information about the average number of classes they actually end up taking at the end of the session, because we end up based on student registration outcomes, we decide how many sections of each course we need. And so we think there's going to be 22, and then at the end there's only 15, which is too low for us to continue running, but it's too late at that point. So we really wanted to make sure that those counts were real. And so limiting them at that point makes the most sense. We make our registration, our number of sections based on that. But then, as Beth said, if there are sections available, certainly students can sign up for more based on that. But we were basically adding more sections than we needed because of so many drops. Students were basically filling up their schedules and then just dropping classes. And so we end up with a lot smaller class sizes than we intended.
Okay. Yeah, I can understand that. My one concern is that, will data be looked at? Well, they've just put in for their 6, right? Because my senior is if I have to drop one class, I'm not going to do band next year. But, you know, my intention is to take band next year. So I really want to be sure. I hear what you're saying. She'll be able to sign up, and I'm very relieved about that. But I want to be sure that when you are looking at the data, you're including like everything that students ask for, and not just, you know, she was a little distressed that Power School would only let her request 6 classes right now. And she understands she's going to meet with her counselor and that will all get worked out. But
I was just going to say that every student has an opportunity to meet with their counselors, and there's we want those that want classes, they will get the information. It's
great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Great questions.
Thanks so much, Gretchen. Looks like Greg, you're next.
Good evening. I've got a couple of questions, and I'm happy to jump back into the hand raised queue. I have probably one of my main concerns is sort of the traffic and infrastructure for the junction schools. Adding as many kids as we're looking at Hiawatha is going to significantly increase the traffic in that area. And then Fleming, adding all the 3rd graders there is going to add to an already bad traffic situation at that school. Plus, that is one of the oldest buildings that we've got. So, infrastructure-wise, can it handle all those kids? I guess the other thing is I know you guys are probably facing a lot of feedback from the music program. The 4th and 5th grade band, they had their concert last night. I think a lot of people would not want to see that go away. And I am not aware of if the Westford 4th and 5th grade kids are getting that opportunity. But in that sense, would it make sense to have them to shutter the entire Westford school and bring those kids down here to get the same opportunities?
So maybe Brian, do you want to take the traffic and infrastructure question? And then Beth, do you want to take the music question? Sounds good.
Yeah, so on the infrastructure and traffic, you know, we went back and looked at what the peak population was at the time. You know, our enrollment's been declining over a number of years, but we can go back historically and see some of those peak enrollments. So we went back and took a look at where Hiawatha has been, where Fleming has been. We worked with an architect and a space designer to qualify the spaces to make sure that they fit within the AOE guidelines and requirements, and that we do it. There's far more work to continue to do if this proposal goes forward. You know, recognize that everything that's in the budget is a proposal and a recommendation, and if we move on. But we did do the space part of it. The same with Fleming. Over time, as our population of students has gone down, schools have converted previous classrooms into other spaces, or have had spaces where they could sort of expand. So we're not currently using all the space right now for classroom or typical classroom space. As far as traffic goes, the Hiawatha space does have a side street that is going to be down there, but the traffic flow and pattern is far superior than Summit Street to the turn to Fleming. Summit Street has been historically for us, since busing, one of our worst locations for people passing the bus with the lights and stop sign out. And that's deeply concerning, because most of the traffic during that time is our own school traffic. So it's our own sort of, it's us that are doing that. But the infrastructure of that is, we'd see that we could be improving the Summit Street traffic and some of the problems that we have there for Fleming pedestrian foot traffic.
Thanks, Brian. Beth, do you want to answer the music / Westford question?
Yes, so Westford students, music-wise, have the same opportunities as our students in Essex currently have.
Well, then that's a moot point. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Greg. If you do have other questions, also feel free to drop them in the chat or email us as well. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Looks like Al, you're next.
Okay, I guess I'm on. I did have a couple of questions, but first of all, could I mention a couple of housekeeping items? The audio during our regular board meeting is not, it's pretty difficult to hear in the audience and on tape. There are not enough speakers in that room.
Hey, Al, real quick, not to interrupt, but can we save the housekeeping and can you email me as the clerk and I can pass them on to the board because we're trying to get folks answers in here or questions and answered here. So housekeeping, send to me and I'll take care of that stuff offline so I can, for the sake of time. Thank you.
I wanted to make sure it got through. Okay, the second point had to do with a lot of concerns that have come in relative to your comments about scoring and student behavior. And so in this budget, if those are real issues, and I assume they are, could you please describe where in the budget, where the resources are to improve both student scores and student behavior, given the fact that there have been so many reductions being planned? Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Beth, do you want to take that one? Because I know we're getting into personnel on next Tuesday, but do you want to speak to that, or maybe Aaron or Jackie?
I can say, and then I'll turn it over to Aaron. I can say that our next presentation on Tuesday will be around mental health. So you'll hear all that. And then, at the upcoming meetings, that's when we're diving into a little more detail. But Aaron, if you want to add anything with the...
Or Dylan too, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Dylan.
I mean, I can chime in too. And like Beth said, we're going to present on Tuesday to kind of give a whole picture, but I'll just say to summarize, we're continuing to invest in the things we've invested in to support behavior and mental health. And we're also adding several programs or classrooms to support kids as well. But we'll certainly talk more about it on Tuesday.
Okay, I'm just about 3 days too fast. Sorry.
Thanks so much, Al.
Okay.
Looks like Sonia, you're next. I think you might just have to unmute.
Yeah, it took a second to accept it.
No worries.
Hi, well, thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to have a voice in this matter. I am a mom, current mom, and future mom to the school district, and we're pretty new to the area. So it's great to have, I feel like, if we're having a voice in the matter. My particular, I guess, more concern than anything else is I guess I would like to try and urge you all to consider the pre-K program moving from Hiawatha into the other school, just from the aspects of the transportation. And I went to a school district when I was younger where busing was very expensive. It's also for tiny children. Like, I wouldn't put my one who's currently in the program on a bus to go because it would be a big problem. So I urge you all to consider keeping the Hiawatha pre-K there. And I don't know if you split it between Hiawatha and the school where, Essex Elementary, where you're trying to condense things. Yes, it's difficult with one car, or you only have one parent who can transport a kid, and then you have two different kids in two different locations. Like, we would be going to Essex Elementary and then back to Hiawatha or vice versa. That is a big distance to go, and we live 4 minutes probably from Hiawatha. So for us, it's you know, a little concerning to have our youngest separated from us after the great experience we've had with our eldest. And that was one of the big selling points for us. Our eldest was at a different program before this, and let's just say it didn't go great. And then after they joined the program here at Hiawatha, they were able to really in a short amount of time start thriving in the program. And most of that, or a good part of that, is us being able to be like, well, we can walk you to school, you're so close to us, and them feeling safe in that and having that comfort, knowing like no matter what happens, like we're right here, we're really close by. It's a short day for them, and it's a great introduction into where they're going to be having their next few years of real like schooling. It's really a fantastic thing, and it's definitely a big part of what drew us to the area.
Beth, did you want to speak to that a little bit, or maybe Dylan? Because I know we talked about that a little bit on Tuesday night. But
yeah, I mean, Sonia, thanks for being on, and great to see your little one there. Certainly understand and appreciate the benefits of having a pre-K close to your home, and I don't think anybody in the leadership position in our district denies that that's an asset for families. I think we also do see some benefits to co-locating the preschool at Essex Elementary School. That's the school that has the physical capacity to house the programs, and we're excited about the benefits that would provide. But I see the drawback too for your family, and that is also one of those things that I believe is tied into some of our other ideas for the proposal. And, you know, if we were to move some of the students from Summit to Hiawatha, we do lose the capacity, I believe, to have the pre-K at Hiawatha too. So that is one of those strategies that is intertwined. While it provides some drawbacks, it also provides some benefits. And so we're having to kind of wrestle with that and prioritize that within this current budget landscape. But certainly hear your concern and appreciate the perspective.
Thank you. And just adding in, oh my goodness, mom brain, the thought that I was going to say completely left my mind. Oh my goodness, sorry.
I was going to say, if the thought comes back though, you have our email. So our emails are right on the website. Please do email us, and please reach out to any one of us, and we're happy to connect with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, and thanks for joining us with your little one. Looks like Tyson, you're next.
Hey all, my name is Tyson Value. I'm a music teacher at Founders, a town resident, and a father of a 3rd and a 6th grade student. I wasn't able to join my colleagues on Tuesday due to a prior commitment, but I just wanted to share what some of the proposed changes to the music programming at Founders would ultimately look and feel like. So I'm not really looking for a response or anything. Just wanted to share with you. Our general music students receive instruction 2 days a week for 45 minutes. All students learn to sing as a class, read music, play simple instruments, move, play games, both cooperatively and competitively, learn about music history, and hear music from areas outside of their immediate access, both in terms of genre and region of the world. All students in 3rd grade participate in a 7-week, 14-class violin unit that culminates in an in-school concert for families. 4th grade students use familiar instruments to transcribe folk songs by ear and write them using standard notation. They then travel to the STEM lab during music class to write a computer program that interacts with an instrument they designed so they can perform the song. 5th grade students learn ukulele for 8 weeks or 16 classes. students finish the unit with a final project that sees students picking their favorite popular song and creating a video of themselves and their friends playing and singing. These are not simply music experiences, but a rigorous music curriculum that begins in kindergarten. The proposed change to the music program would severely reduce student outcomes or completely eliminate some of our most popular units, and I'll surely miss them. Many of our students would never experience the challenges, the joys, and sense of accomplishment that comes from learning an instrument. At Founders and Fleming, we are also being asked to end our longstanding instrumental music program as part of our budget proposal. Founders has a long history of providing instrumental music education that predates my 16 years in the district. Many of my students' parents began learning an instrument in the Essextown School District at Founders Memorial School. Students get a choice to start an instrument in 4th and 5th grade at Founders. This is at 10 or 11 years old, well before students are bombarded with and limited to how many choices they can fit into their lives. As students get older, and I'm experiencing this firsthand, they make hard choices of which activity, sport, instrument, or hobby they continue pursuing, pausing, or ending. 4th and 5th graders are given the choice to try an instrument, accept the challenge, persevere through hard times, relish in the joy of accomplishment, and work as a team outside of a competitive environment. Some students play for a year and succeed before trying something else. Some students play for many years, and some students begin on one instrument and feel the urge to learn them all. Some students pause for many years before deciding to get back into it, but all of these students were given the opportunity to try at an early age. The average cost of private music lessons is $60 an hour. Our students receive an hour and 30 minutes of instrumental instruction each week. This year, Founders has 62 students in the band and 59 orchestra students who, across 2 grade levels, choose to play an instrument. That's 55.7% of our 5th grade and 36.8% of our 4th grade, though we've had a bunch of move-ins, so I assume that those numbers have changed to a lower percentage. Many students, my own children included, would not have been able to learn an instrument at such an early age if the only option were private lessons for them. I'm proud to say that in my 16 years at Founders Memorial School, no student has ever been denied access to an instrument, and we've found ways to get an instrument into the hands of every student who wanted to give it a try. I definitely do not envy our administration and our school board's task of presenting a school budget each year. I'm asking as an educator and a father of a 6th grader who is able to have access to this music program, and of a 3rd grader who is still hoping to have that same access. I'm hoping that you'll reconsider the change to the proposed budget. Thank you so much for listening, and I appreciate all of your hard work.
Thanks so much, Tyson. And just to give you an update too from the Tuesday meeting, I know one of the things brought forward was the board did ask administration to bring back the costs for each of those different aspects that are in the current proposal to be cut, so that the board can evaluate either trading out or increasing the budget and looking at those different areas. So definitely more to come next week. I really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much, Robert. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Tyson. Have a great night.
You too.
And just to clarify for everyone, I do apologize. So the chat feature apparently was not working. However, the Q&A feature for those who are viewing is up and active. If you do click on the triangle, square, circle button and click on Q&A, you'll be able to add any questions there into the Q&A. So I just want to make that clear. It looks like a few people have already been able to get into there. So I will jump back into those with raised hands, and then I'll bounce back and forth between there and the Q&A. Looks like Debbie and Linda, you're up next.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the time. We had a little trouble with the computer. I'd like to go back to the House of Cards with Beth. My question is kind of twofold. The other evening when I was at the school board meeting, I heard or thought I heard Marlon bring up the whole music piece and having you revisit that in terms of the proposal. I also thought I heard Beth say, and again, if I heard you wrong, I apologize, But I thought I heard you say this evening when you were talking about the House of Cards that there may be other strategies, I think that's what you called them, that could possibly be revisited in terms of the proposal. So I just wanted some clarification on both of those. And I think Debbie has a question, but I think she has to wait until mine's answered.
So as far as like Marlon had asked for a breakdown for the music. So that will happen on Tuesday night. We can give breakdowns, but it's also, the strategies are also so interrelated that it's hard to give exact numbers for it. Maybe I can have Brian explain more of that. I feel like I'm failing on my House of Cards.
Well, the big interconnectivity, why don't I just lay out one that already came up that's kind of a clear example, is if we keep pre-K in the schools, we can't do any school consolidation. There isn't enough room. There isn't enough classrooms available. So moving pre-K and centralizing it is a prerequisite to then consolidating out of schools and then achieving grade level alignment. We can't achieve grade level alignment without consolidating into schools and changing grade configurations. And we can't do that without moving pre-K. And so that's what we mean. There's a number of these now. Some of them, inside the budget that we've talked about is opening up a therapeutic program for our high school students. Now, we're looking for that to, if we relocate our ARC program, which is grades 3 through 8, out of its current location at 58 Founders, we can locate the high school program in there. Now, in theory, we could also rent space somewhere in the community or somewhere in the county. The preference is to have those students and their instruction happen on our campus. So that one doesn't become an absolute roadblock, but it is interconnected to our facilities and to our strategy to provide a full spectrum of services and educational and instructional settings for our students. So there's a couple of different ways that we have interconnection. I guess that would be to ask Debbie if is that help, or can I clarify better?
He's asking you.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did that help understand the sort of like how some things are interconnected completely?
Yes, I understand that. Just to follow up, I also heard it the other night at the board meeting that this ARC program that you're wanting to move into Summit has 20 students in it. Am I correct in that?
Currently, it's serving, I believe, 16 students right now, and that's the cap because the facility cannot take any others. We are with our capacity to run it. We'd like to be running it at growing towards 20 and not being capped at 16. But right now, we'd be capped at 16 in its current location.
Okay, may I ask this one question? If there are places available at Fleming School for the third graders to move to Fleming, why can't those 20 students from the ARC program go into Fleming School? And then none of this has to happen, because basically it sounds to me like the House of Cards is all about obtaining Summit for those students.
But I'd say the predecessor there was to try to obtain $5 to $6 million in savings to meet board guidance.
Okay.
So when given that challenge to try to reduce the budget by over 8%, it wasn't, we needed to really kind of step out of the box. And we've talked about changing and reimagining our delivery model. And we've tried to do that in a way that brings us greater alignment and consistency and continuity across the entire system. So, without any financial constraints, we really wouldn't have to do much. But we have real, true financial constraints. And so the move in Summit Street and consolidating and being able to get great alignment is saving over $1 million in the budget. To adjust class sizes slightly from 17 to 19 and for K3 and then 4-8 to move them from 20 to 22 is saving over $1 million. So, we were charged with, and the board, the board recognized that the idea of a double-digit tax increase again for a second year was kind of unimaginable and certainly was worth trying to avoid. Many of these choices were sparked and because we needed to save $5 to $6 million.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Debbie. I think just
My other piece, Beth.
I'm not going to drop over to the. Oh, hold on, Debbie. Would we be able to go on? There's quite a few number of people in the room, and we have just a little bit left. If you do have additional questions, would you be able to email the remainder? I just want to try to give other individuals a few opportunities to ask questions.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Looks like next in the waiting room is Rebecca. And then I'll drop over to the Q&A section for a couple of quick ones that we can hit, and then we'll go back to Brielle.
Can't get this off.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. My question, well, first of all, hi guys. Thank you for doing this. I'm a mom of a second grader and who's in Westford, and I have a almost 2-year-old, so she'll be utilizing the pre-K program, not this coming up year, but the year after. So my concern, first of all, I'd like to say that I actually think that there could be quite a bit of benefit of moving the middle schoolers into Essex Elementary. So one of my concerns is transportation, which I think you've already seen echoed in the chat, so I'll let that, somebody else answer that. And also keeping the sense of community where our middle schoolers work with our younger children and vice versa, so they get to know each other. That's also one of my concerns. But my big thing that I want to bring up is I do not agree with what's being proposed for the pre-K. A lot of what I feel is echoing what the mama Sonia said earlier out of Hiawatha, where she's not. I live right on the Common in Westford, so I'm just right down the road from the school for both of my children. So it's a huge change for us to have to go up into Essex every day, especially for preschool. I've recently been doing some research on the available preschool programs that are private, should we choose not to do the Essex school for pre-K with our second child. And I'm really concerned to see that there are no private pre-Ks available in Westford. So my concern is that in Essex and Essex Junction, there are tens of programs that parents who choose not to use the public school can utilize if they have available slots. But in Westford, if we lose our pre-K program and have to go all the way into Essex, if we're not able to do that either logistically or financially, there is no other in-town option for us. So though co-locating the preschools may be equal for everyone, my question is it truly equitable for the Westford people to have to bring their children all the way into town when there are really no other in-town options? And that's all.
Thanks, Rebecca. Beth, do you want to speak to that a little bit? Or I know we're going to talk more about that in our meeting on Tuesday as well, with the pieces blending together.
Right, and Dylan has already spoken to pre-K tonight, but we will get into more detail. I appreciate hearing the concerns and wanting it to stay in Westford. I appreciate your support for the middle school, and we will have more information. I felt like we spent a lot of time on pre-K tonight, so but if you have direct questions, you could also email me, and I can get you answers. But I feel like we've spent some time on that tonight, and Tuesday we'll go into deeper.
No, I would disagree that we haven't really discussed the extra, the fact that there are no other private programs available to the Westford students. So I would like to discuss that.
That's true. We did not discuss that. We did not discuss that. That's right. Aaron and Dylan, is that true? There's not Westford pre-Ks.
Yeah, that's been the case for some time. There was one, I think, a while ago, but I do believe Rebecca's right that it may have closed, but we can double check that too. I think the point is well made and something to talk about for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. I'm going to jump over to the chat for just one quick moment here, because there was one question that I think is worth this clarifying that we can do very quickly. The question was, even if we level budget this year, a homeowner's school property tax is still likely to increase. So I just want to direct people again back to the meeting on Tuesday night in the slide deck. That is the case, and that is due to the way that the state funds education. I know there was a few questions in here around that, so I did want to clarify that. And we can raise that again next Tuesday night to kind of keep that out there. But yes, that is the case. Even with a level budget, it would still be likely to increase. In terms of individuals, it looks like Brielle, you're next.
Hi, everyone.
We can
Thank
hear
you. I just want to start off by saying I am a Summit Street parent to a first grader, so I'm emotional and angry and try to hold it together. So I just want to start with Summit Street. So we specifically purchased our home so that we could be walkers to Summit Street. We walk every day, rain or shine, nearly, if we can. And that is one of the driving factors for where we live and why. And I have concerns because my daughter's in first grade, so she will be in Summit Street for first grade, Hiawatha for second grade, and Fleming for third grades. So this little kiddo is going to have 3 big transitions over 3 years, 3 different schools over 3 years, and I think that's completely wild and unnecessary. And then when we think about not adding that extra counselor to Hiawatha, that is concerning for the transition of all these kiddos coming from Summit Street. And we heard in the meeting on Tuesday that we would be below the national recommendations or whatever they had mentioned for the counselors to kiddos. So I think that's important to look at. And if we're moving all these kiddos to Summit Street, it sounds like, or to Hiawatha, it sounds like there's some traffic concerns that have been looked at. And I'd also be interested in their space over there because we talk about losing music and, you know, now I'm thinking space-wise, do we have classrooms for these specials? Like, is there an art classroom would be available? Will there be a music classroom available? Or is the music teacher, you know, pushing around a little cart, you know, coming into classrooms? I think that's a question. Do we have space for extras, you know, aside from just the classes? I also, this is like a run-on question slash concern, I guess, but all just linked back to Summit Street. I do have questions about moving, you know, relocating all these kids to move in 16 kiddos. I mean, I know there's potential to grow, but that's potential. It's not something that's already happened. And then when you link that to maybe central office going into Summit Street, you know, y'all are in a lease till 2027. Your landlord's abroad, which I would have thought you would connected before that. But, you know, I had to check the year, see if I was like, is this 25 or 26? Because this is 2 years away. So we are moving these kiddos for like potential things that may fall or may not. And then that kind of brings me to central office in general. You know, the world's remote right now. Do you need an office space? Because it seems like we're moving students, but we're not getting rid of any buildings. So we're keeping, you know, we're moving students from Westford, we're moving students out of Summit, but yet we're keeping these buildings that require maintenance on our hands. So again, I'm wondering like how those numbers work and flush. So I would just like to hear some answers around Summit Street in general. And then just a plug for music. Like, what have we been doing here to get rid of it? We know that music is therapy. We're talking about adding these therapeutic programs. And fundamentally, we know that music is one of our therapeutic programs. I'm not even a musical person. We've heard the cry from parents. We've heard, you know, 2 young ladies at the meeting the other day had to come and stick up for themselves, you know, in front of adults. That's hard to do because they're passionate about music. If you just Google, you know, whatever you're going to Google, music and childhood development, you're going to find research study after research study after research study with all the positive implications. So I don't know. I don't think that was a question, but that's what I have to say. And actually, I do have one more thing too. I think words are very important. The email that came out specifically from Beth to the Summit Street families said, "This will happen." And there was nothing in there until the very end that said feedback is welcome. All the other emails have sent links, suggested comments, suggested feedbacks. This is a proposal. That email to Summit Street families specifically said this will happen. I think it was at best misleading, at worst manipulative. And I would almost like to see another email directed to the Summit Street families because in my opinion, and the talk around Summit Street, people think it's a done deal because of that email. And so I'd be curious how many people are not voicing their opinion because they did see an email that said this will happen. So I think there should be a clarification email going to the Summit Street families. That's it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Brielle. Just to speak to one point there too, I know Marlon did mention before that a few board members will be out at Westford. If I can obtain childcare, I will be at Summit Street along with a couple of board members this Friday for the community dinner that's being held on Friday as well. So a time for parents to engage. But yeah, so at the board meeting the other night, I did mention that, as a district, we want to make sure that as we're communicating as transparently as possible. But we did yesterday send out the email just as a reminder to everyone across the entire district that nothing is a done deal yet. We are still working through the budget, still seeing the numbers, and want to make sure that that's out there as much as possible. So I appreciate you raising that, but we got that out there. Christine, I'll let you go ahead real quick.
Yeah, I didn't want to answer. I wanted to lift up what Brielle asked around the space.
Yep.
So I didn't want that to get missed, and I would like that addressed.
Thank you, Christine.
And I know the other part just around like facilities, because you did bring up the point around, why are we retaining so many buildings and what's the plan for that? So I know many across the state were kind of waiting for the state to have money out there in terms of looking at facilities assessment and going through that. We as a district already have, and we've already started working with Freeman, French, and Freeman to basically look at a master plan across the district and start engaging the community. So after budget season, we actually plan to start engaging with the community around what does the future of our buildings actually look like. That's kind of the next big project that we're aiming into as a district, because we recognize that, there's facilities costs, there's maintenance costs, there's all these different aspects, and figuring out where do we see in the next 10 to 20 years we need to invest our money in order to either update things, do we need to build something new, do we need to consolidate? But all of that, we want a high level of investment through our community through that process. The reality of at least the space and the movement of items right now is kind of going back to what Brian said with the idea of level budgeting, trying to get $6 million down out of the district. But Brian and Beth or anyone else from district office as well, if you want to go more into the space and like the 20 and then the district office as well.
I mean, the Hiawatha space right now, there would be, if we reconvert some typical classroom space back to classroom space that's been changed into office locations over the years, there would be enough to fit the students that go there and the students that would be moving in, and there would still be an art and a music room downstairs. What's in play is the introduction of in-school therapeutic classrooms for K3 and 3-5. And where best to situate those classrooms so that they best serve the students that need that and are in the school services and so forth. So that's still work that we need to figure out. I think the best way to do that is with our principals and with our staff. Once we know that there is commitment by at least the board and then eventually by the public, that this is the direction that we want to go in. So that's that space. I think you were asking about, is there an art classroom and so forth. If it's decided at the school-based level that that instruction for art or music can or should or maybe happen in a different way, that will be part of it. So we'll go on there.
So I think I'm gonna.
Can I just add something really quick, Robert, just to lift up the comment you made, Brielle, about the number of transitions for a particular group of students. We have had that conversation and recognized the challenge there, and have started talking about how we might recognize that and think about what supports to provide. So I didn't want to leave. It was one of your first comments, and I just wanted you to know that we've been talking about it.
Okay, thank you.
So I do know we have a end time of 7:30 that was originally 4. I'm okay with going over for a couple of minutes just to allow for one more question. And then for those of you who are still on and in the line, what I am going to do is all of the Q&A in here. I'm going to take all of that, make sure we get answers, and maybe we can put just a general FAQ document together, just post this meeting that we can post along with any minutes or notes from this meeting. But Karen, I'll turn it over to you for our last question here, and then we'll wrap it up.
It definitely takes a moment for that to click in. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
First of all, I just have to say, I was in tears listening to Tyson. I have had the honor and privilege of working alongside him for all 16 years. And it's been hard, I'm sure, for him. So I just have to say kudos to him and the other music teachers. This work is impossible, and no one wants any of the cuts to impact them, but it has to happen, the reality of it. My question, and I put a couple in the chat, my question has to do with on one of the slides, it might have been 51, there was a cut to EHS administration, and it's tied into questions around the athletic department as well. So I guess I'm wondering, what is the, how is that money being saved at Essex High School, the administration? I want to say it was 220,000. And can someone explain exactly how that ties into the changes that are being made at Essex High School? It's my understanding right now there's a principal, 4 assistant principals, and then an athletic director. So if someone could give a clearer picture of the savings and which of those positions are still going to exist next year.
Beth, did you want to take that one?
Sure. Hi, Karen. We will go from 4 assistant principals at the high school next year to 3. What we've found over the past few years, actually several years, I think, at Essex High School with athletics, that we need an administrator that oversees the work. There's a lot entailed in that. And what happens is it ends up bringing in many of the assistant principals to do that work. So they're taking on more. And if we have a licensed educator in there, they can do the HHB or Title IX and get that done without support from the main office to come help. And so there's that piece of it. We also, in this new design, are thinking about the 6 through 12 alignment. So as they're in middle school and helping that transition into high school, into sports. So just taking a systems approach more to athletics by having an athletic director 6 through 12. We're also looking at a school coordinator or that would support the that would support the athletic director. When you saw the numbers in that administration from EHS, that was an assistant principal as well as an office support staff person. So that's an administrator. Okay. So that's why that cost was that.
Okay, so yeah, I think it was 226,000. So is the assistant principal that's being eliminated at the high school is really just being shifted to the athletic department?
That's a personnel issue that I'm not going to get into, but okay. Yeah, so someone will be the athletic director there.
But will the position that is currently the athletic director also still exist?
No, that would be more of a school coordinator position.
Okay. But that person's also going to be the athletic director at the middle schools, because I saw that there was a 2/10 FTE being added to the middle schools.
We do need to work on the middle schools and figure out how they have like people representing them during games and things. So that's still in discussion, Karen. That is not a finalized thing. We see that we need some site at each of the middle schools as well, some site coverage. So we're working on that.
Okay.
Within the budget, there is the elimination that there's been past practice that each middle school, including Westford, had an athletic director that was receiving a stipend. And they were all the same level of stipend. All those stipends have been eliminated in the FY26 budget. So that is some of the savings and also some of the money that will be shifting over to design the final 6-12 structure.
So looking at a need to cut $5 or $6 million, are you saying that taking the stipends we have now and the current athletic director position, that is more costly than having an administrator join the athletic department and having someone still be the coordinator and these 2/10 FTE positions at both middle schools?
I'd like to say that it's been costly for us not to have a unified 6-12 athletic activity structure, and that it has cost students and families opportunities and access to programming because of where they live and what school they go to. So I believe that this structure is a significant step forward to having more continuity and consistency and opportunity, regardless to what street address you have.
Okay, thank you.
So what I would ask is if everyone who is still in the line there, if you can drop whatever questions you have into the Q&A. If that is not working for you, what I will actually do is I will drop my email here into the chat. Let me just drop this in quick, and then feel free to email me the question and we'll get together a FAQ sheet from the session this evening from the unanswered questions. And just get this in. So I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. And so feel free to go ahead and either email me the question or drop it in the Q&A. And then I know a couple of board members, they had put in the chat that they're willing to stay on for a minute or two. I'm more than happy. There's a couple of just quick answer questions in here that I think are worth highlighting. So if anyone still wants to stay on, I do want to respect administration's time. They've had long days working through these budgets. There's a couple of board specific questions in here, and I'm happy to just answer these really quickly. But if those of you who are on here or have joined the call with us this evening need to head out, I totally respect that as well. I just want to say on behalf of the board, thank you all for joining us this evening. Thank you for engaging with us. We'll see some of you at different events over the course of the next couple of weeks. Our meeting on Tuesday, and then again next Thursday. But I just want to take a quick moment just to address a couple quick questions in here. There was one saying, has the board looked into how much money can be saved by offering free school breakfast and free lunch based on need instead of for everyone? I'm thinking it must be expensive to offer free meals for all students. So actually that is federally funded, and that is an incredible program that we have that self-funds, and actually through the amount of participation we've had in that through the school year as well as the summer, it's actually created revenue for us as a school district that has been used to buy more equipment, to overhaul and renovate some of the furniture and everything in the cafeteria. So I know in the governor's bill, it did have that as an idea of cutting universal school meals, but that is actually a huge revenue source for the state and has created quite the economy here locally to Essex. I'm really proud of that program that we have here. And I'm happy at a future board meeting to kind of highlight that a little bit for our community members. There was one other question.
Robert, can I add one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I also want to add to the folks, because that's come up a couple of times from some individuals across the community. And again, love the question. But I think I just want to share some more context too, is that the way the system's set in the state right now, it's universal meals for every student across the state. In the past, again, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, because you were the guru on this here. You had systems in place that you'd have a card or however system you use to check in a number to be able to check in, track meals that go to the state, and basically be able to figure out who's in free and reduced. There is no infrastructure to do that right now. So if we were to say we're just going to go on our own, we'd have to literally build our own infrastructure to be able to afford to do that. And that cost will probably be a lot more than the way we're doing it right now and getting that money from the federal government to feed students. So I understand looking for cost saving measures, but I think when you look at the context of that there, that we would be doing a lot more work and asking the district to do a lot more of repetitive and unnecessary work. And we actually would be giving less to our students, and we would actually see worse outcomes for our students because, again, as we've seen, talk about equity and barriers, food insecurity is a barrier. It's a huge barrier. So I've always touted when Brian brings it up or when the district brings it up. So again, just want to say that again, love the question, but I think the context there is important, that to do that would do, I think, more harm, and we don't have the infrastructure, the capacity to take that on, and we would spend more money and not going directly to our students.
And the last theme of questions here that I wanted to just address really quickly is there was an anonymous question that came in around, and there was a couple questions around this. Are you hearing strong support from the community for the decision to level fund the budget? I'm not in favor given the drastic cuts that'll be required. We moved here mainly because residents valued and were willing to fund education. Even a small 2 to 3% increase could change a lot. There was also another question here kind of tied in parallel to that, just around, what research has the board done with the community in relation to these cuts? There was another question is, has there been a survey that has gone out? On our website, we actually did a very extensive survey that almost 1,000 individuals from our community participated in across all different demographics of our community, from staff, parents, students, residents, taxpayers, everyone. And that was where we got a lot of this information from, and also just hearing feedback as we've been engaging the community that it's really trying to keep education affordable in our area. Because of the tax increase that we felt last year, adding more than a 10% increase this year, we felt as a board we needed to keep it below that. Just to give an idea for individuals still on the call, for every $500,000 that we increase our budget by above level budget would actually increase the tax rate by 0.75% on the individual tax bill. So again, that adds up very quickly as we're talking about some of these programs and models. And that's why we really chose as a board to go with the level budget, and also extensively surveyed the community, both through that and also through our superintendent search. We got a lot of really great data from there, and just hearing about both affordability and also making sure that our students are taken care of. And that's really what we gave the impossible task to administration to bring back to us, of how do we keep this affordable, which is a significant amount of money to reduce, while also maintaining a high level of quality of education for our kiddos, because both matter at the same time.
Right. I'll add it again some more that to the some other data we had was last year's budget. We asked the district to come up with a very fiscally responsible budget, but even with that, through constraints that we don't control from the state, we had double digits tax increases for across our community, and the community very vehemently said no, and that forced us to give even harder task to the district to come up with a very deeper cut budget last year in the second round that passed. And so again, we're faced with that same dilemma again this year, that we can go with the budget that actually adds some more money in there, but it's going to cause double-digit tax increases, which again, the board in December gave the direction to the district not to do that with the level budget. So again, it's that balance, and it's hard because we'd love to keep all those programs in there, but we know that we saw the community's response last year was, if it's a double-digit tax increase, it's a non-starter. So that's hard. That again, it's hard, and then when it becomes tangible, and we see the programs it's actually going to affect. That's when it really hits home, and everybody here feels it. The district folks feel it, the board feels it, and the community feels it. But that's where to get this conversation to figure out, if this is where we want to stay, okay, we have to figure out some cuts that work for everybody, or again, maybe the community over the next month that says, no, we want to see an improvement. We want to see more added to the budget, and we make adjustments. That's what all this is about. But again, based on the information we've gotten from the survey, from last year's budget, we had to make a decision, and this was the guidance that we gave to the district.
So with that, I know we're about 15 minutes over here, and I know there are still more questions. So again, I want to just emphasize our emails, both Marlins and I are in there, and go ahead and drop them. Any questions to both of our emails or to the board as a whole, we'll make sure that those questions are kind of put into the FAQ along with the ones that are still remaining here in the chat. We will have this session every Thursday. And I know, especially just looking through here, as we continue to go through the budget presentation next Tuesday, we'll definitely continue to address and take additional questions around pre-K and kind of just the scope of what that looks like. That seems to be a big question looming out there, along with this transportation and also this clarity around Summit and Westford. So again, if you are a Summit family, some of us board members will see you at Summit on Friday. Feel free to connect with us. And then also, if you're a Westford family, there'll be a couple of board members out at Westford. And then the last thing I'll just mention, if you have a group, so if you're part of Rotary, if you're part of some community group that would like us to come or have a board member come and speak to you, we are more than happy to do that, to come and engage with you through this process. So please just reach out directly for that and continue to engage with us. And I just want to say thank you. Like, the amount of connection and feedback and through this challenging time, like this is not easy. And we as a board want to be as empathetic as possible and be as informed as possible so that we can make the best decision, which we also recognize is going to still be hard for wide swaths of individuals in our community. And unfortunately, there is not an easy way out of that. And all I will say as a board is we're going to keep not just working on that, but also advocating at the state level on behalf of our district, because we can't stop doing that. So thank you all for your time. Thank you for your evening. For those of you who had little kiddos on the call, kudos to you. Mine are still in the background and hopefully still alive. So we're doing well. But thank you, everyone. Have a great night. Thank you, central office staff, for being here this evening as well and taking time out of your evening. And thank you, board members. I will stay on obviously for a couple minutes just to let people put their final thoughts into the Q&A, and then we'll make sure we capture all of those, and we will see you all out in the community. Thank you.